Welcome back to Inside Sources. Now we want to have a segment, a roundtable to discuss this declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State by the president, which has now been approved by the National Assembly. Quite a lot of very important issues to break down. Now, to join me in that discussion, I have a federal representative, actually the member of the Federal House of Representatives that represents Governor Fubara. I have him here in the studio. That is Mr. Awaji Inombek Abiante. My brother, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for coming. And of course, we have Malam Baba Yusuf, strategist, policy advisor, and the group CEO of GITC. Malam, good to see you again.
Always a pleasure to be here, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And joining us virtually from Lagos, Nigeria, we have Mr. Dayo Akintobi, a newspaper publisher. Mr. Akintobi, it's good to see you again.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, thank you. So let us start from the Federal House of Representatives member, to tell us what is going on. What is your own assessment of what had happened this week? First, the president said that, look, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to have to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State. And then he took the rather controversial, in my view, decision to ask the governor and the State Assembly to go and sit down. What's your opening take?
Thank you very much. The issues around the state of emergency is already in the public glare, and I believe that Nigerians have told us what their take is. Parliament has also done what they needed to do. Whether I was right there on the floor or I was not there, whether I voted yes or I voted no, the decision has been taken by Parliament. Right. Therefore, all of us collectively should see that as the position of the National Assembly. But going forward, there are a few gaps, even in the actions of the National Assembly. Yes, given that the presiding officers told us the numbers that they had on the register. Right. And the only options available for whatever was done was a yes or a no. But in Parliament, there are three options to vote. Right. We are not going to look at all of that it has been done. Is that you vote a yes, you vote a no, or you abstain. Yes. So provisions were not also made for those who wished never to vote a yes or a no.
Or to abstain.
Exactly. So going forward,
so there was no provision for that.
That was not done. Even when parliamentary decisions are in this threefold, these three folds, it wasn't done. But I'm not going to be talking about what was done right and what was not done right. Okay. Constitutionality and illegality, or whatever legality of what had been done, is in the public glare. A lot of people have discussed that already, that president does not have the powers, where the contention is, does not have the powers to suspend democracy in Rivers State. Right. If you flip the table, would the president want to suspend democracy at the federal level? Question for another day. But let me look at the gaps that are available. I listened to what Mr. President said while making that declaration. There were several gaps. One of the gaps is, that for this long period, the governor did not make attempts to provide for where the members of the legislature in Rivers State will sit. That may not be absolutely correct. I have seen where the sole administrator had gone to inspect the progress of work that is being done on the chambers. You see, most Nigerians, they sit in Abuja, sit in Lagos, and say, everything was demolished. That is not very correct as well. What was demolished was just the chambers of the House of Assembly of Rivers State. And the immediate past governor had also admitted that that building itself has structural faults. So heaping it on the governor as one of the conditions that enable the state of emergency may not be absolutely correct. Okay. Secondly, there was this issue that pipelines were broken. There was explosion, blown up explosion. It's also on record that the pipeline is back to work. So if it was a targeted activity to cause an explosion on that pipeline, it couldn't have been up and running as we speak. It couldn't have been up and running as we speak. So that could tell us that it's either the intelligence that was relied upon may have been rigged. And the question is, if in this country, we could rig intelligence to the president. Are we not in danger? If you move beyond that, even the Supreme Court told us that, look, there is no governance in Rivers State. I also would not want to agree to that extent. Why? The constitutional requirement of governance is the provision of security and taking care of the welfare of the citizens. These two, the governor of Rivers State has effectively taking care of all of this up till the moment that the state of emergency was declared. Salaries were being paid. In fact, promotions were done that were not done for years, close to 10 years. No civil servant was promoted. This governor had to promote civils and had paid. When the minimum wage was increased, this governor has also increased and has paid. The governor had employed over 5,000 persons, both in the civil service, the medical, the universities, the polytechnics, and this had not happened several years before his coming. So that cannot equate to the fact that, oh, there was no governance. So it is not correct. Both the Supreme Court and whatever intelligence that was relied upon from Mr. President to make that declaration, I do not get that done. Then, as humans, you see, we are all bound to have disagreements.
Yeah.
And at the point where the parties wish to reconcile, if it's actually in the interest of the people, you have gotten to the point. Before that point, Court A will say, no, you are right. Court B will say, you are wrong. So everybody maintained their own positions until the final declaration by the Supreme Court. And it took the governor humility. And that is what is selling him in Rivers State. I can tell you that over 80% of the people of Rivers, over 80% are still standing with the governor, no matter what had been declared, no matter what had been proclaimed. If the governor can humble himself, wrote a letter through the secretary to government, it was rejected. He made attempts to call the presiding officer and say, look, these things are over. First of all, he said, can you come so that you would tell me the areas that you still feel incensed about so that we can discuss as a family? They went to the market square. Oh, this man is stupid. Why will he invite us? It was a family before whatever disagreement came in. He left all of that in his own humble way, came to where you have been sitting.
Yeah.
This is the budget that has been talked about by the Supreme Court. Can you have it? If you want to make your inputs, whichever thing you want to do with it, he was locked out. Even at that, some people were still clapping, hey, why will you come at this point? Every disagreement had ended. Yeah. He went back and wrote a letter. Said, I will be coming to present this budget. Because, no, it has not presented the budget. I'm coming to present this budget to you on the 19th, which was the Wednesday. Oh, he said, oh, you had adjourned, you are sitting sine die. So it simply should tell us that these people, we are not really ready to serve serve Rivers people. My own House of Assembly member is also one of them. That they are not ready in any way, form, or manner to serve Rivers people. It is very obvious. Nobody can paint it afresh. You cannot stay in an anchor handling tug vessel and be using the chart of a cargo ship on the Arabic Sea to navigate your boat. There is a captain in your anchor handling vessel.
Right.
You should look at him. If you are the engineer, fix the engine. If you are the second officer, work as a second officer. If you are the oiler, oil this engine so that your ship can have a safe sail. But while you are still in this boat and you are looking at the charts or even taking instruction from another captain in another vessel, of course, you have already planned a shipwreck for all of us. So we are not so surprised at what is happening. The other issue is, speaking to Rivers people, speaking to my friends, speaking to lawmakers like me at that level, there is a popular saying, if brothers fight to death, strangers will take over their inheritance.
Okay, Honorable, just hold your thought there so that we come back to you, so that we space it a little bit. We're going to come back, to that second point. Let's ask, take it to Malam. What's your own take, on what has happened in Rivers State and what the president has done and what the National Assembly has approved?
Well, thank you for having me, Prof. It's just a very precarious situation if we found ourselves in this country. I'm not happy about it, first of all, because they say whatever happens to the eye has already happened to the nose. And what has happened in Rivers, for the avoidance of about anybody in this country, north, south, east, west, should not take it lightly, because it is a reflection of what may occur. Already, Prof, Honorable, the precedents have been set in this country with regards, a new precedence rather, with regards to this emergency rule, imposition. We've seen what happened in 2003 in Plateau. We saw what happened in Ekiti subsequently. And of course, we saw how President Goodluck Jonathan magnanimously, managed around that. But of course, one may argue that we have a very peculiar issue in Rivers State, whereas the dramatis personae, in this case, His Excellency Governor Fubara and his political godfather, the former governor, now Minister Wike, have gone to a crossroads, such that they have gone to a point where, with due respect to those that say there will be mediation, irreconcilable differences, that is totally broken down and has given an opportunity, for those that did what they did or they are doing what they are doing to the Rivers State, over and beyond the people of Rivers, because my focus, Prof, in this conversation is not Minister Wike, is not Governor Fubara, but the people of Rivers State. First of all, their rights have been suspended, and the right is to vote for whoever they want. Whoever it is they want, they have voted for that person, whether in legislature or executive. But that being said, now the people that have been entrusted with that trust by the people have failed the people and have now decided to take this fight to make it personal. However you see it is a personal fight, because in the beginning, it was rosy, nobody was hearing this. I remember with nostalgia, build up to the elections, Prof, I don't know if you remember, Governor Fubara was haunted by the EFCC. And the allegation then was he was protecting Minister Wike. It's so ironic now that the two parties have gone this way. But I will remind us with the quote of former President of America, President John Kennedy, who said, "Those who sought power by riding on the back of the tiger end up in its stomach." And that is a less classic lesson. So those that are aspiring for office, or those that are already within the core of politicking in Nigeria, you cannot take your clothes and dip it in brown water, pure white cloth, I want it to be white. What I'm saying is, going forward, we need to evaluate situations and people we want to align with, whether political godfathers or godsons, before we go into bed with it. Of course, from time immemorial, this is not new, the clash between godfather and godson, but Rivers has presented an instance. But where it is very important is the position taken by Mr. President. But more importantly, to learn, to give the opportunity to our panelists, is, of all this dramatic personality, whether it is Mr. President has done what he wants to do, whatever you want to say it, whatever you call it, the dramatic personality that brought us here, Governor Fubara and Governor Wike, have done what they are doing, all as far as I'm concerned, not for the interest of the people of Rivers State, but the biggest focal point for me and for all Nigerians is the National Assembly. The president can do whatever he wants, Prof, Honorable. What is key for us is that which was lacking before 25 years ago when we got into the Fourth Republic, that people died and we shed tears and we lost a lot of time with military juntas. The legislature was the missing link that makes democracy what it is anywhere in the world. And here we are, alas. We have a legislature that has come to play the dance they have played, whether it is the green and red chamber. So I put squarely and wholly the responsibility, whether positive or negative, or what happens in the Rivers, on the door front of the National Assembly. And to make it worse, not even the Senate President, not the Speaker, not the ruling party, but the so-called opposition parties and opposition caucus that are there, that have suddenly lost their voice, whether it is for Qatar or flu or whatever, and we don't see that reaction from these proponents of democracy, quote and unquote, to at least take a position to pressure for us to see what? To see a process take place. I don't have a quarrel with whether it is a unanimous decision, but the process is crucial in giving integrity to the process and for us to know that the people in the National Assembly are serious or not. But indeed, Mr. President played a card and they bought it wholesome. And as far as I'm concerned, that is the area we should look at critically.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Akintobi, please, your take on what is happening in Rivers State and what the president has done that has now been approved by the National Assembly.
I don't think the framers of our Constitution inserted that clause of a state of emergency for it to be deployed in anything but the most extreme circumstances where there is imminent threat of war or a clear and present danger of a breakdown of law and order. I think that clause really speaks more to violence, mayhem, all kinds of things that disrupt orderly society. And I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, did the situation in Rivers State rise up to the level where there was a clear concern that it may suddenly become chaotic in that state? Well, as my co-panelists have said earlier, there was a political process playing out. The governor had approached the state assembly. He was locked out. He wrote a letter to them to say he'd come back again. So I remember him saying that he would comply with the ruling of the Supreme Court 100%. And it seems to me that he was actually on the road to doing that. Whether the existing House of Assembly was in sync with that or not, bottom line is they had written a petition and had initiated impeachment proceedings. What all this tells me is that the political process was playing out towards resolution one way or the other. If there was any possible threat of violence or breakdown of law and order, I think it's what the army could have been deployed in a measured manner, because the will of the people, the suffrages of the people that are given to the person or persons they trust, I don't think we should trivialize that at all. I think that is the most superior element in the entire democratic process, is the will of the people. And I don't think any individual, whether the president, whether the House of Assembly, whether the House of Reps, I don't think any individual should be able to overwhelm the will of the people. Well, the Supreme Court has played its own part recently in subverting the will of the people. Some agree with some of their rulings, some don't. I can give you some really atrocious ones, like Senate President Akpabio, who was never on the ballot for Senate because he went to run for president. He never contested the primary for Senate. He's Senate President today. Then, of course, we can't forget Imo, where number 4 became number 1. So there are some rulings that are coming out of the Supreme Court and the judiciary that's making the public lose confidence and faith in the ability of the judiciary to get us justice. So I put it to you that even going to the Supreme Court in this case, because yes, yesterday is an academic exercise now because National Assembly ratified it, I think is in keeping with that spirit of triviality that this whole thing has been handled, that they even subjected the thing to a voice vote, something that is critical to the lives of 20 million people in Rivers State. You subject it to a voice vote. Like my co-panelist said, where were the opposition? Well, their voices were drowned out. I'm sure that, I can say for sure that the votes were not overwhelming. There would have been 1 or 2 dissents, but there was no opportunity for them to even express that dissent. And that further goes to show that this whole matter has been dealt with kids' gloves. A president has deployed his power. Let's go back to the Constitution. What did the framers intend when they inserted that clause about a state of emergency? Did they at any point in time intend that the president or anybody else should be able to truncate the will of the people as freely expressed at the ballot box? I think not. We've seen it done in many cases where the army is deployed on the streets of certain cities without a state of emergency being declared. And of course, it was a presidential overreach to declare.
All right, Mr. Akintobi,
suspend the.
Thank you.
Governor.
Because of our time, because our time is fast spent, and I would still like, to give maybe 30 seconds each for a last word, starting from Honorable Abiante. Now, so I know that you've indicated some of the things that happened, but in your own view, what is this? Since you also represent the governor, I mean, you represent the federal constituency in the House of Reps, where Governor Fubara hails. What in your own view ought to be the redress that is open to a democratically elected governor who has been unconstitutionally asked to go and sit down?
Thank you very much. On the surface, just looking at the way it ought to be, probably.
So let's make it very short because of time.
Someone will say, oh, if you want to seek redress, you go to the courts. You listen to my colleague.
Right.
Where do you go to? If this, if that, if the other. It definitely means that a lot of people must have lost hope in that. Then, at the point of taking the resolutions, the National Assembly, correctly or wrongly, has adopted it, but they went further. They said, look, let us see how we can find a solution to this. Can we have a team to mediate and bring peace? Don't forget, there was Pandef.
Yes.
Pandef had tried. Pandef had met with the governor about twice or so.
I met with the president too.
Met with the president, but couldn't meet with the other party. And the president was unable to direct the other party to meet with Pandef and make...
Is that so?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Now we have gone beyond that. Okay, can you set up a committee, mediation team made of eminent Nigerians? And if you look through it, say, well, there may have been a team that has been responsible to interfacing with characters in politics, especially when it comes to elective periods, headed by General Abdul Salam. So he has
Peace Committee.
Yeah. So I can't think of any other category of persons higher than that. If he had the opportunity as a military general, he had the opportunity to elongate, stay in power, and he said no, he didn't do it. So if we have to probably repopulate that committee, because he talked about having members of the National Assembly, repopulate the committee with him taking the lead. Let us see if the parties involved will also refuse to subject themselves to that level of discussion. Because where we are, if we keep talking about the constitutionality, the legality, we may not have an end to it. And let us not forget, back home,
right,
the interpretations differ. And it will be wrong to allow this thing to fester. It will be very, very wrong to even allow it get to that 6 months, because you could begin to play Nigerians against fellow Nigerians. On the streets of Port Harcourt, what is being discussed is that, it is a fight to grab the resources of Rivers State. And don't forget that Rivers State contributes so much towards the welfare of Nigeria and Nigerians. Absolutely. People are also saying, a group is playing this to further underdevelop us. So let us not allow this to fester. Mr. President should also understand that he also got some votes from Rivers people.
Significant.
It was not just one vote. And in politics, one man cannot be in his polling unit and be in your polling unit except you belong to the same polling unit.
That's right.
Be in your local government area. So no one man can deliver any majority votes.
No. You need people.
So if we now begin to think that there is one Superman, and because of that Superman, we want to mortgage if the people's resistance come, the Superman might only cast a single vote.
Okay.
And that will be all.
Thank you so much. I'll give the last word to Malam. But before that, I just wanted to say that, clearly, I'm not sure that the Superman, Wike himself, I'm not sure that he's well taken care of in this decision. But I get that's a discussion for another day.
I just said the Superman. I didn't make
I know. Last word. I know. Last word, Malam.
Well, I will write quickly on what Honorable said to give credence to what he said with regards to the sensitivities and sensibilities of the populace. And I will cast all our minds back with profound respect to all of us, including Mr. President, all of us, to what happened in Kano State in 2003. when the then governor, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, during his heydays as a member of the ruling party, was up against Malam Ibrahim Shekaru, who was a political greenhorn, if you like, coming on board in an opposition party. No federal might, with the gravitas of a man that is President Obasanjo that we know, could change the will of the people of Kano State. Against all odds, PDP lost. It is a classic example of a case study in political science to what happens when you push too far.
This was 2003.
2003. You can check it out and see what happened. No levers of power within the access of President Obasanjo, and then with his personality and persona, could change the will of the people of the Kano State. And as big and as tough and on ground as Governor Kwankwaso was, could not win that election. And an opposition figure that was just contesting for the first time,
that's Shekara.
Shekara won that election, and it has remained etched in history as a classic example of what happens when you take people for granted, no matter the power you have. I will close with this to all players, to remind us of a quote by Sun Tzu, the great master strategist. And he said, "An evil man will burn down his nation to the ground to rule over its ashes."
Because of our time, we're just going to wrap it up. And just to back up all the things that we've been saying here, I want to repeat what I said in my take, that there is an Arabic proverb that says, when they asked Pharaoh, "Why were you a tyrant?" Pharaoh said, "Because nobody stopped me."
Absolutely.